Hello, 3D Basics class. It's week 12. We're so close to the end of the semester. Today, we're talking about character animation. So in two parts. The first part is going to be about adding an armature and or a rig to a character to help you animate, and then we'll just talk about animating in general, a character, which will lead into your assignment 6, which is your last regular assignment before your final project for the semester. Um, Next week is another week of no class. So, because it's like a workshop day or something like that. So, just as with spring break, you won't have a lecture or a Zoom or anything next week. So, the deadline for assignment 6 is actually, 3 weeks. So everything just kind of gets pushed back again one more week after this week. Okay, and before we even talk about character animation, I do just want to update you that just today or yesterday, there's a new version of Blender out, 3.5. Which I haven't looked at all. I just kind of saw it kind of a few minutes before I started the lecture. And I downloaded it and installed it. So I always kind of get excited for what the new like splash screen model is going to be. And it's this like tiny bakery, which it just looks so cute. All of these little things. I actually really like the aesthetic of this. Kind of reminds me of some of the dioramas we saw for when we were looking at assignment 5. So I encourage you to download this and check it out. Get some new features. Okay, here we are in Blender. We're talking about character animation. And in order to talk about character animation, we have to talk about how things can move in Blender. Because to date, when we talk about animation, we've only covered like moving objects as a whole. Move the letters, move the things, move the camera, move the lights. But what if you have one object that you want different parts to move? And that's what an armature does. So I'm going to walk you through like a super duper basic example here quickly. So what I'm going to create is a cylinder, and I want a triangle fan on the top, and let's just make it a little deeper. And like that, great. And then I'm going to tab edit mode, and I'm going to control R, mouse wheel up, and do a bunch of loop cuts like this, just so that it's relatively even deal like that. And I need to turn on my keyboard shortcut. Okay, so this is going to be like our worm or something, RX90 like that. So if we're animating a worm or whatever, like how do we get this to bend? And so what an armature is it's a set of bones, literally, the term is bone, inside this that we can bend and move, and we parent the vertexes of the mesh to these bones. And it says, okay, like when this bone moves, these vertexes are going to move with it. So it's sort of like it uses soft selection to kind of tell which parts of the mesh move with which bone. So we have our cylinder. I'm going to call this worm. Herman the worm. Been listening to too many children's songs. Okay, so we're in object mode. We're going to add an armature object in here. Shift A, and it's armature. You probably only have the option of single bone right now. You can see a couple other things here. That's with an add-on that I will show you in a few moments. So start with a single bone. Okay, and it's right now it's hidden inside my worm here. So just move it up. So this is what a bone looks like in Blender. So a bone has 3 features. It has a little sphere on one end, a kind of pyramid triangle thing that points in a certain direction, and then a little bone on the other end. So these are joints, and this is kind of the actual bone in between. So imagine, if you will, your arm. And your shoulder is a joint. and there's a bone that goes to your elbow, and your elbow is a joint. And then a bone that goes to your wrist, and your wrist is a joint. And then, each of your fingers has, a bone joint, bone joint, bone joint, bone joint, bone joint, bone joint, bone joint. So these function the same way. So, joints are places where things rotate, and bones kind of connect two joints together. Okay. So, real quick, we have this armature. So to edit an armature, tabbing to get into edit mode. So the direction is important here. So the like fatter part of the bone is like further up in the chain. So if I select this joint at the end here, I can extrude out another bone like this. I can extrude a bone out like this. So like imagine this is like, a shoulder, an elbow, and a wrist. So this would actually probably be smaller. So all the same tools applied. So apply G. G is really the only one that you would use. You can R to rotate, but it's basically the same effect as just kind of G moving like this. Okay, so like I said, the direction is important. So one new mode that you will be experiencing is pose mode. So right now we're in edit mode. If you hit this drop down with an armature selected, you can go to pose mode. And so you can see that when you select bones, they turn this kind of teal color. And so the reason the direction is important is because if I select this middle one here and I rotate, it's going to rotate the end bone with it as well. So same thing, if I grab this bottom one, it's going to, and rotate this, it's going to move all three. So R to rotate here, R to rotate here. So just like how your arm works, if I move my shoulder, if I move my shoulder bone, joint, the whole rest of my arm moves with it because it's kind of like attached in a chain. If I just move my elbow, my hand and my wrist move with it, but my shoulder doesn't move it. So that, like, think about kind of the points, joints along your arm. Okay. And like, if I move my wrist, all my fingers move with it. But then if I just move one finger, I guess one of my other fingers does move with it, but my wrist is not moving with it. My elbow and my shoulder are not moving when I move this. So it's like a chain of bones. And the further back on the chain, everything past it on the chain moves with it. Okay. We're learning. We're understanding. We're figuring this out. Okay. So that's the basics of bones. But now let's talk about how we actually apply this to our worm. I want to go into object mode and I want to delete that. Okay. Now, side view. Let's make our worm here. Okay. Shift A. I'm in object mode. I'm adding a new single bone. Okay. So one thing that people often do when working with armatures is they want to be able to see them at all times. So like right now it's like hidden inside, so it's kind of hard to work with. So one thing that I pretty much always encourage you to do with your armature object selected, go to, so right here on the object properties, the orange tab, go to visibility. Not visibility, it's viewport display and show in front. Check this box. So no matter which angle you're looking at this, it's always going to appear like in front. So kind of with your perspective, with your eyes, you can see that yes, it's inside there, but now we're able to kind of see X-ray through it without actually turning on X-ray or wireframe or any of that stuff. Okay, so that's in object properties, viewport display, and then checking in front. Okay, so now I'm going to do my side view here. And now I'm just going to kind of position this where I think it should be. So just generally, it probably, you do want to try to be as symmetrical as possible with this. So I probably should have rigged my worm vertically so I could have made sure that it was exactly on the Z axis. But here, I can tweak my transform here. So the location X is going to be exactly 0, and the location Z should be exactly 0. and my rotation X should be exactly 90 degrees. And so then, my Y location, I know that it's exactly on the X and Z plane, and then I can move it along the Y here like this. Okay, and so it's sort of, the worm maybe isn't necessarily the best example, but I'll show it to you anyway. So I'm gonna tab into edit mode for my armature. I'm gonna select the joint on the end here, and I can GY just kind of move it up like this, so that I know it's staying along the Y plane there. And maybe I'll just do like 4 bones. This worm is 4 bones, and I know that worms don't have bones. The worm analogy is quickly falling apart. But anyway, I'm gonna E extrude and then hit Y so it snaps to the Y. I'll do it again, EY, EY, and put it pretty much right to the end there like that. Okay, so we've got 4 bones. But now obviously it's still just its own bone. It's its own armature object. So if I go tab back into object mode and I switch over to pose mode and I kind of try to start rotating these bones like this, nothing's happening. So undo, undo, undo. So we need to parent, back into object mode. We need to parent our worm to the armature. We're going to select the armature first. Incorrect. Select the object first, the worm first. I'm holding down the shift key, and then I'm clicking the armature. So we have both things selected, but the armature is the active selection because it's this like a brighter orange. It's the active selection. We've selected both. And then bring up our parenting menu. So Control P. So it's not just a simple parent. We want to do armature deform. And so you can see there's actually a couple options with empty groups, with envelope weights, with automatic weights. For now, let's do with automatic weights. So we're setting parent to the armature, and we're deforming with automatic weights. And I'll explain how this happened, or what all that means in a second. So you can see now, the worm object has now been parented to the armature. So if you drop down armature up here in your scene collection, here's worm, and worm actually has an armature modifier on it. That's kind of what that does. So if I now select the armature object here and I go into pose mode, this allows us to change the pose of things. And I rotate the bone, you can see that things now, move with it. So if I move the very end of the chain, the first part of the chain here, everything moves with it. If I move this bone, those things move with it. And you can see this one. Okay, so we have our worm object. So now, if we wanted to animate this pose, I'll move myself over here. If we wanted to animate this pose, now like in pose mode, you can just add keyframes for the regular thing. So maybe I even turn on auto keying, or like I select all of these, or I do A for all, and I can do I insert keyframe, location, rotation, and then I can move forward in time. Maybe I rotate this one this way. I turned on auto keying, and then like maybe this goes like this, and this goes like this, and this one kind of twirls around like that. And now we have an animation of our worm flopping. And so just like a couple things to note. So we added those keyframes in pose mode. If you go back to edit mode, it's going to show you how it was originally. Without altering the pose. So this was like the original state of the armature and the original state of the thing. So of the worm. So if you needed to tweak kind of where a bone was or something like that, you could still do it in edit mode. But then also note, if you go back to object mode is going to reflect the animation in the pose. So like when you render animation, it's going to show you the final deal. I'll put a shade smooth on there. Okay, so let's talk about what the automatic weights mean. So when you're parenting an object to an armature, there's a calculation that is done to determine which parts of the object move with which bone. So I'm in object mode. I have this selected. What I can go to is down here, object data properties. And you can see there's 4 different vertex groups that were created. One group of vertexes for bone 1, bone 2, bone 3, and bone 4. So if I go down to, if I switch from object mode to weight paint mode, you can see a heat map. And if those of you that watched the optional lecture about particles, the weight paint should be familiar, and vertex groups should hopefully ring a bell for you. So what it has done is it creates a set of vertexes, and it assigns values to each of those vertex groups. So when you look at a heat map here in Blender, or weight paint, red is a value of 100% and blue is a value of 0%. So if I have bone 3 selected here, we're seeing the vertex group for bone 3. So how to interpret this is the parts that are red will move 100% with the bone. That like if I move it 10 degrees or if I move it 90 degrees in this direction, the parts that are in red will move 90 degrees with it, 1 to 1. 100%, it'll move 100% with the bone. The parts that are in yellow will kind of move 50%. It'll kind of, if you move it 90 degrees, it'll kind of bend it, to about 45 degrees. And the parts that are blue will not be influenced at all when we move this bone. So you can kind of, whoops, I'm clicking the wrong window. So you can see like, yes, when I move this bone, like this part moves with it, but it still kind of is a little bit softer of a movement. Same with this one, and then here at the end. So like the last bone, all of these vertexes here that are colored red will move 100% of the way with that. And obviously, like when you move this one, it's going to take everything else along with it. So this can be manipulated too. So like if I go to bone 3 like this, you can actually paint the weight paint. So I can paint a value of 0 on here and change this to be like blue. And then it's really going to mess up, what happens when your armature moves. So you can undo that. So that's the automatic weight. So it's automatically creating vertex groups based on the bones that are around you. So the next part of this is a rig, and so there's a difference between and a lot of times people kind of interchange the term armature and rig. And they function similarly, but kind of a rig is like a more advanced armature. So if you imagine like you, a human, are trying to move your hand, like you're trying to reach and grab your water bottle. So how your brain works is you don't think about, okay, move my shoulder this much, then move my elbow this much, then open my fingers, and then like your brain doesn't calculate like that. Your brain is controlling your hand. So you're telling your hand, like, hand, move this way. You're not telling your elbow and your wrist and your shoulder. You're controlling like the end point. And this process is called inverse kinematics. So you're controlling the end of the chain. Same thing when you're walking. Like you don't think, well, you probably don't even think about walking either, but like you're not thinking about, okay, hip, then knee, then ankle. You're just thinking about right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. So what a rig is a rig is controlling kind of the end points. So here with this worm, so like if this is the beginning of the worm here, this is the end of the worm here. So what we can do is add some bone constraints. So and I'll just show you one. And I will say, like, you're not necessarily going to need to like know how to do all of these individual things. I'm just trying to get you to understand like the process. And there's lots of add-ons that save so much time with all of these things. But I just want you to see a super simple example and how it works before we move on to the add-ons that kind of automatically do a lot of these things for you. Okay, so first, if I want to create something that's going to control the end of the worm here, um, I need to just have like an empty object here that kind of is our sort of controller. So I'm going to go Shift A and I'm going to add empty, and I'll just make it circle like this. Okay, so G, I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to try to move it like right at where the end of the thing is. And I'm actually going to RZ90 like this, put it right there. So it's sort of like a little like handle, and maybe I'll even scale it down a little bit for the end of the worm. So, okay, so now we need to go into our armature here, select the armature. I'm going to go tab into pose mode. So I can just select this last bone here, and I'm going to add a bone constraint. So you can see underneath the object data properties, underneath the green one, there's another like picture of a bone here, bone constraints. And the bone constraint I want to add is inverse kinematics. Inverse kinematics. And so this is going to allow us to kind of do that backwards control. So like all we're going to do is control the front one, and it's going to move the rest behind it. So it adds this IK stands for inverse kinematics, and my target is going to be this empty. And I should rename this to be like worm control. Okay. So now if I go back into object mode like this and I select my worm control, if I G move this around, as you can, if I move the worm control, this circle can kind of control the worm. So it's moving back down the chain to move the whole thing. So rather than having to animate 4 bones, I just animate 1 worm control like this. And I do have auto keying on, so like, you know, if I do some crazy moves like this, now I have some worm animation happening. Okay. So kind of cool. I had a thought, and okay, yeah. So that's just the basic inverse kinematics thing. If I go back to the armature and I go to this thing here, chain length. Look at this chain length. So if your chain length is going to be set to 0, it's going to go all the way back to the beginning of the chain. But like if I change this to 1, it's only going to affect 1 link in the chain. So hopefully you can predict if I change this to 2. Now, now it's going to affect 2 links of the chain. And if I go back here and I make this 3, it's moving the first 3, but the 4th one is still. And then if I go to 4, it's going to do the whole thing. Or not necessarily the whole thing, but it'll do, because there's a chain of 4, it's going to do 4. But if I set it to 0, it's going to do the whole thing all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so that's basically a rig. And so I'll show you an add-on. So next we're going to move on to a actual character. And I'll show you an add-on that will kind of automatically create a rig for you. And it's a built-in add-on in Blender. Okay, so here is Chester that we made last week. So Chester has, you know, a body, but then he also has a shirt and shorts. And so I'm going to provide this model to you exactly like this. If you want to practice rigging a character on your own, I'll also provide a copy of this file rigged. So if you're not interested in that, you can do your assignment 6 with an already rigged character, and all you're going to be worrying about is the animation part of it. And again, I'll talk about assignment 6 after we kind of walk through this example a little bit. So anyway, okay, so here's Chester. He first I want to enable the Rigify add-on. This is an add-on that is built into Blender, so you don't need to download anything. So go to your edit menu, go to preferences. You have go to your add-ons tab here and search for Rigify, RIGIFY, and enable that with the checkbox. Okay, So now, if you Shift A add an armature, you should have a couple of additional options. Maybe, yeah, under basic, we can do basic human. There's also, so actually the difference here, let me look at this a little bit. Oh, yeah, so if you do the regular, the human meta rig, it's going to also have like face and fingers and stuff like that. For this example, I'm not going to do the fingers and the face because it is more complicated. So we're just going to do the basic human. So let me delete that. So anyway, I'm going to go Shift A. I'm going to add a basic human like this. And it's hidden inside my character right now. So I need to go to my object properties and I need to go to viewport display and do in front like this. You can see that my Chester is quite large. So what I probably can do is, well, there's a couple schools of thought. We can shrink Chester to be about the size of that rig, or we can make the rig larger. It's really kind of a personal preference. I think what is the least complicated is actually if I scale this down. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. Because for some reason I'm like nervous about like changing the scale of the armature. I don't necessarily have a good rationale, but I think it's easier just to kind of apply the scale of Chester a little bit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select shirts. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to select the shorts. And then I'm going to click Chester. So Chester is the active selection in the lighter orange. I'm going to do Control P, set parent to object, and I don't think it really matters, and keep transform. Okay, so now Chester has shirts and shorts kind of within him like this. So if I change the scale of Chester, it's all going to go with. Okay. So I'm going to go front view like this. And I'm going to GZ, make sure that Chester stays kind of right on the Z-axis, so it's centered right there. And maybe I'll scale you up a little bit. Just, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're obviously going to adjust the armature a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to not A. I'm going to select Chester and I'm going to Shift A. Oh, Control A. Apply scale. Like this. So now when you apply the scale, it kind of resets everything so that the scale is set to 1. And I've had problems with the scale of things before, so I always generally want the scale of my object to be 1 and the scale of the rig to be 1. It just like things play nicer when they're of scale 1. Okay, and so now, our rig is visible in front. And so now we can just start editing. So one thing, I have the meta rig selected. I'm going to tab into edit mode and I'm going to enable this mirror box up here on the top right. So this says apply changes to matching bone on the opposite side of the x-axis. So one thing that this rig has done, which is important, is it has named the bones. Let's see if I can look at the bone properties, object data properties, somewhere in here. But anyway, so like the bones have the proper naming convention. So like here, so this one is pelvis.L, which means it's the left pelvis, and pelvis.R, which means it's the right pelvis. And so this .L and .R allows us to have this mirroring editing going on. So like, for example, if I select this one here, and I G move this around, the one on the opposite side is not moving with it, but if I undo that and I check this box, because it's labeled properly, it's mirroring it on the opposite side. So because Chester is perfectly symmetrical, this is going to work out nicely for us. Okay. So follow me along if you will. So now I'm just lining things up. So we're just trying to match where bones kind of would naturally be. So like this is going to be his shoulder rotation. This one is going to be kind of out at his elbow. This joint is going to be at the wrist, and this one is just going to be kind of the end of the hand. So it's kind of just like a paddle. This is the hips. Hips kind of, we can move these out here. This one's going to be at the knee. This is the heel. And we'll just kind of try to line things up a little bit. I know for a fact that we're going to have a little bit of a problem when I start to move these around because they're supposed to be connected. So I'll walk you through that process when we get there. So everything on the front looks to be about in line. I'm always like a little bit unsure what to do with these extra neck pieces. Oh, and it also is important when you're moving these center ones to keep them in the Z axis. So make sure if you hit G, also hit Z so that we're staying exactly in the center. G, Z. GZ for this. G. Yeah, and like I'm not exactly sure what this is a collarbone, so I don't know, maybe I need it to be more evened out like that. Let's do our side view now. So like think about where the parts where these parts are in the human body. So like when your neck moves, it's controlled by your spine. So your spine is actually like near the back of your neck. It's not in the front of your neck. So like when you bend your head down, the flesh kind of clumps up around your chin here like this, rather than like in the dead center. There's not too much stretching that happens in the back. So kind of think about where these bones actually exist in the body. Let's do our top-down view. So let's try to get the elbow a little bit closer. And, it doesn't really matter where that goes. Oh yeah, so we need to adjust the feet for sure. So let's do side view. Let me look at this. So this should be a little bit further down. This is kind of the front of the foot. He's got like big old flipper feet, but that's fine. Yeah, so the knee kind of needs to be in front like this. The hips kind of needs to be a little bit more towards the back. And also, like, be careful. Like, sometimes I'm accidentally grabbing the bone part of it, and so it's going to move both joints like that. So sometimes you only want to be grabbing the joints and moving that little bit there. Spine, we should probably move the spine a little bit further back. I don't know. This is supposed to be like chest movement, I think, but I don't know exactly what. So I need to be a little bit more creative here. And also be careful if you're switching into a perspective view, make sure that you're continuing to only move it along one axis, because it's important that, like I said, that things are symmetrical. So I grabbed this one, but then I need to go back to my orthographic view, so I'm sliding it exactly in the right position. So I think this is where there gets to be problems, that these bones are disconnected. I have a feeling it's going to give me an error when I try to do the armature deform with this, but we'll see. Okay, grabbing that one, I'm going to kind of G, move it back. Yeah, he's got kind of a hunchback. That's okay. That's just his way. Okay, I'm feeling okay about this. Yeah, the shoulders, let's see, top down, give me a top down. This is the shoulder. I think maybe, oops, I just wanted to grab the joint here. Just the joint, please. Just the joint, please. There we go. Shoulder needs to be like maybe a little further back like that. I don't know. You can always adjust these later. It's a little bit tedious, so you try to get it as good as you can. I think the hips actually need to be a little bit more forward like that. This is something that comes with practice. Okay. Now, so we've got our armature generally in place. If you're doing this on your own, I would. Oops, and the toes are looking a little wonky, so I want to fix the toes. This is the toe here. Whoops, I need to go back. Sorry. Tab, object mode, select the armature, tab, edit mode. Now I can move the foot. That needs to go there. This needs to be in the toes here. Okay. Great. That's feeling right. You can see there's like some of these other kind of things here, I'm not going to worry about them too much. Okay. Now, object mode. Okay, so because we used the Rigify add-on, in your object data properties for the meta rig, you have, so like object data properties are like the stick person here. There's a Rigify tab. And you can generate rig, just like that. So if you hit generate rig, so this is the error I was talking about, Rigify. Bone spline 004 cannot connect chain. It's just disjointed. So it's for some reason I always get this error, and it's because these two, if I go tab, these two bones need to be in the exact same spot, or these two joints need to be in the exact same spot. So here's what we do. So actually, let me undo that. Let me GZ move this down. So remember a few weeks ago I talked about how to use the 3D cursor. This is exactly how we're going to line these up perfectly, because we need these to occupy the exact same joint. And actually, I wonder if I right click those, maybe I can do snap. Can I snap? Selection snap to active like that. Will that work if I just do snap like that? Regenerate rig. Let's try. We're learning together. Aha. Okay. Cool. So it worked. So I did generate rig, and so now you can see that we have like all of these fancy dancy controls. So we have meta rig, which is the armature, and then we just have rig, which is all of these controls. And so now we just need to do we haven't, if I go to pose mode like this, if I move this, nothing's happening yet, because we still need to parent it to this rig. So let's see, let's go back to, object mode, select our mesh first, Chester, and then I'm going to shift click on the rig, which is all of these fancy controls, or you can even do it up here. So like Chester and then shift click on the rig. Whoops, no, I guess it would be control click here in the menu. Anyway, then we'll do control P. And this is our parenting menu. We want to parent Chester to the rig and do armature deform with automatic weights. So we want it to automatically generate the weights, the vertex groups with the weights. There we go. Armature deform with automatic weights. Okay. Hopefully it did it. So let's see. So I have the rig selected. We can go into pose mode. And now if I move his hand, aha, it's working. Okay, one problem. So you can see the clothes didn't come with it. So like if I grab the foot here, you can see the shorts don't come along with it. So we just need to repeat the same process. So like, go back into object mode. Repeat the process for the different parts of the clothes. So and actually, we're done with meta rig, so we can even just hide that altogether. So I'll select his shirt, and then I'll even I believe I can shift click and select the pants as well, and then third shift click, select the rig. So we're selecting the shirt, and then the pants, and then the rig is the last selection, so it's the active selection. And I believe I can also just go Control P, armature deform with automatic weights like this, and then it should hopefully all move with the pose now. Yep, so now the shirt is also moving with it. So all the different pieces that you want to be parented to the rig, you just have to parent those to the rig. So I probably could have just selected the body and the shirt and the shorts and done it all at the same time, but I just wanted you to see how that works. Okay. So now we have, controls. And so how you position, and some of these don't have the as intuitive controls as you might think. Like for me, this hand paddle seems like it's facing the wrong way. And some of these also like don't do anything. Like these green ones don't do anything for me. But like here, for example, like here's like shoulder control, and here is neck, bob and weave, and here's like the top of the head. And actually, maybe I should even do like viewport in front on this one too. So like here, I can select the torso and like, ooh, it moves the whole body. But like the hands are planted. I don't know. Do this. There's some fun things that can happen. Okay. Anyway, let me undo all these things. Undo. Okay, so looking at a rig here. So as I said, like there are some of these that are less useful than others. Like this is like shoulder rotation. These green ones, I don't know what these green ones do. So in the object data properties, there's you have this pose position and rest position. So actually these, whoops, didn't mean to turn all these off. Oh gosh. Turn these back on. Pause. So these little circles here are sort of like shortcuts to different controls, And I've seen. I don't know how to use this. I mean, I understand the function of it, but like to me, this is like impossible to keep track of like what things do what. So like this one is like the right arm, and I don't know how you would know, which ones do which. So it's like, well, I like this one, and I need this one, and maybe I just turn all of these on. They're different controls for different parts, but not all of them work. So like maybe as I'm doing this, so like yeah, some of these are the knee control things. So it's like, well, do I need that one? I probably don't need that. Whoops. And then of course then I turn all of them off accidentally. So yeah, like do I just turn that one off? I think this one is that green one and this one is that green one. What is this one here? I'll turn this one off. What about these bits? Yeah, I'll turn this off. Okay. I think these are the ones that end up being useful. Let me save this for everyone. Okay. The other thing I did was show in front. I kind of like that. Yeah, what is this? Turn this off for me too. I don't want this one. What about all these blue ones? Do these blue ones do anything? Oh yeah, the blue ones do a little bit, so we'll keep the blue ones. But basically, so this takes a little bit of practice to understand like which parts of these move which things. So if I were to, so based on how this hand is moving, I might, because you can see like I would rather have the elbow kind of move back like this than move down. So I might. Maybe if I rotate this one, so you just kind of got, whoops, R to rotate. My T tools went away. Here we go. So yeah, you still can move the elbow like this. You just have to grab the individual controls. There we go. Now it seems to make a little bit more sense. Anyway, okay. So then you're off to the races. So again, animating a character is tedious and slow. But I'll walk you through like a very short example of like what a walk cycle. A walk cycle is like a very simple character animation that some people do, and just involves like walking like this. So let's go through that real quick. Okay, so the process of animating a character is slow, and it can feel tedious, and it can feel like it's going to take a long time, but this is something that you will absolutely get better at with practice, and you'll kind of find your own method. I'll show you my method as someone who is not necessarily a super experienced character animator, but just kind of how my brain works and what ends up being easier for me in the long run. So I think what some people get really caught up in is that they end up having a lot of keyframes, that it gets like too messy. And it's like, I don't like, what are these keyframes? And I don't even remember. And why is this over here? And all of a sudden the legs flying off in a different direction. So my general process is I start with the big actions and then kind of slowly work my way in and refine animations. So like I start with like keyframes at like 2 or 3 key points, and then tweak them, maybe add some in between keyframes, use the graph editor to make sure things are kind of doing what I want them to do. And so the method you use also depends on the like where this is going to end up. So if you're just animating to make an animation in Blender, then it's sort of like you kind of do whatever's most comfortable for you. If you're animating for like to create animation assets for something else, like for other animators who are making a feature film, or for a game designer, that kind of changes how you would set it up as well. So I'm going to show you just like a quick walk cycle. And then I do also kind of want to show you, we talked about shape keys in the first animation assignment, the movie studio graphic. But shape keys is a little bit more useful with characters because you can kind of save poses and kind of turn them on and off. And so that might be more useful for someone who's like a game designer, who's like, okay, well, this is the like punch pose. So it's like a punch and then unpunch or, whatever. Okay. So let me undo a few times. Undo, 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 undo. Okay. And let's do a really basic walk cycle. What you can probably do like an internet search for like a profile of a walk cycle. I always recommend having some type of reference to work off of, so you're not doing it blind. Of course, I'm going to attempt to do it blind here, but even if it's like something custom, like take a selfie video, set your phone up, and like record yourself doing the action so you can kind of see what it looks like, and then try to mimic it. Okay, but I won't do something there. So let's start with a quick walk cycle. So I'm gonna attempt to use as few of these like controls on the rig as possible. So actually, let me just like save this, and then I want to save a copy and do just a rigged walk cycle, so I'm not messing up your save. Okay, saving as. All right, so walk cycle. I'm gonna do my side view. So how I'm gonna go about this is I'm gonna keyframe like the left foot being forward, and then I'm gonna keyframe the backward, the opposite, the reverse of it. Okay, so I'm gonna attempt to use as few of the handles as possible, just so that like I'm keeping my keyframes on a smaller number of objects. So right now, I'm going to kind of move his body down a little bit with this box. The box one that kind of controls the torso, and then this red handle here kind of controls the foot. So, and really, it's kind of funny how no, that's fine. I was just thinking about how his feet are below the line here. That's fine. Okay, so like, I'm gonna just have his feet back like this, and so this little handle here controls the heel, so we can like kind of have his toes down like that, and then maybe it's a little bit of a longer stride, and if we're really wanting to be precise, I can kind of turn the heel up like this. And then with the hands, so hands will be kind of forward like this. And, I may need to kind of adjust here as well. Let me grab this elbow bit and kind of move the elbow out. So just kind of a gentle swing in the arms. And I guess, people don't generally have big strides, like arm strides like that, so maybe I'll just keep it a little closer to the body. The hand will be a little bit awkward because I just think the hand paddle is kind of at an awkward position. Maybe this shoulder comes out a little bit. I don't know. Again, I said I was trying not to do too many. Oh, and really, people walk like opposite, right? So this actually should be in the back. Kind of on a back swing. Whoops. 3. Rotated back like this. Okay. And also maybe the shoulders twist a little bit. So I think I've got those shoulders there. So yeah, kind of striding like this. Okay. And now if we do the reverse side, so this hand comes down forward a little bit. So once you kind of start to get things in the right spot, and now I feel like the hands like stretched a little bit too much. Shoulder maybe needs to come forward a little bit, this one here. Oops, that's the foot. I'm trying to grab the hand here. Elbow seems like a little off. There we go. I don't know. Okay, so there's a stride. Now, what you can do is like keyframe all. That might be kind of an easier way to do it. So like if you hit A to select all the different parts, you can go I insert location rotation like this. It probably makes sense for these larger chunks. Yeah, and so okay, so here's the other cool thing. So remember how I said that it's key that all of the different parts of this rig were appropriately named left and right, or .L and .R, so that you can do that symmetrical thing. So check this out. So I selected everything, all the different parts of the rig, added a location and rotation keyframe for everything. And we have one keyframe on frame 0. So let's move ahead to like frame 40. And we can select this keyframe, could copy it, Control C, or right click copy. And then here we can, maybe you saw the option, we can paste flipped. Oh, and maybe it's behind my camera a little bit. On frame 40, I'm going to right click and I can do paste flipped. So hopefully you can see that like it's switched. So now the left foot's forward and the right foot's forward and the left hand is forward. And now you can see we've got a keyframe. Or we've got like a little bit of like walking happening. So that's another like little time saver. That you're not having to like, if it's like a symmetrical movement, or even if it's not a symmetrical movement, but like the movements are kind of mirrored on each side, you can paste flip version of the keyframes pretty easily with it, and you know that it's exactly mirrored. Okay, so I've got 40 frames like this. It's maybe a little bit slow for a step, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, so next part of my process is like I'm gonna kind of figure out what would be like on frame 20 here. So what does it look like on frame 20? So like we're halfway through. So if I'm thinking about how a person walks, so that Chester is stepping down on his left foot here. So the left foot is probably kind of like extending upwards a little bit. The torso is probably moving up, and the right leg is kind of is starting to, or is like in the air stepping forward. So at frame 20 here, and maybe this is the point where you turn on auto key. So maybe I turn on auto key here like this. And I'm going to stay on frame 20. So I'm going to kind of G, slide the torso up like this. I'm going to make sure I'm grabbing the left foot here. Left foot. And I'm going to kind of G move it up like this. Maybe I'll also like kind of turn the heel a little bit. Or maybe I won't turn the heel, but maybe I'll just kind of rotate the foot so that it's kind of moving up like this. And let's just see kind of what that looks like. So that's starting to look a little bit more natural. So the left foot's stepping up. The other thing that kind of happens first maybe is like and so I've got like the halfway point here. So like the frame 20 thing happening. You know what else you can do? So if we change our timeline down here to the graph editor, maybe normalize to see everything all together. And if you do A to select all of the different parts here, I think it works if you also just select all the keyframes like this. Tap N. Oh, let's see. Why is it like this? If I do A, N. Hold on. I just did this. A, N, and menu. Hold on, pause. Okay, I Googled this because all of a sudden it like wasn't doing what I was expecting it to do. Because normally if you press N, there's a tab that comes up here that says modifiers. But anyway, I've figured out a different way to do it. So if we select all of the, if I select all these, I can right click. No, sorry. Yeah, it has to be over here in the list of actions over here. A to select all. So all these things turn yellow. You can right click and add an F curve modifier and cycles. And so what this is going to do is it's going to just like repeat all of the keyframes over and over. So we can actually see the walk cycle as it happens. And so and I'm noticing now we forgot one thing. So we keyframed the left foot going forward and the right foot going forward, but we actually need a third that returns it to the start of the cycle. So, okay, let's go back to, I'm going to go back to timeline. I'm just going to take this first one and frame 80 and copy and paste that one here. So we're going back to frame the beginning on 80. So now, even though like we only have these first keyframes, it's going to continue to do that walk cycle. Okay. So let's keep filling in here. So I think I'm generally pleased with our in between here on frame 20. So what we can do is, move it back to frame 20. It's hard with this like big cursor on the screen here. So I'm going to copy this one, but then on frame 60, I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste flipped like this. So we're kind of stepping up and down on each one. And so you just got to kind of keep track of what you're changing, and where you might need to go back and paste flipped again. But honestly, like this is a pretty good place to start. Yeah, and so if I were to continue to work on this, I might have like the foot land like a little bit quicker. So like maybe here. So like maybe frame 0, is the heel hitting the ground. But then maybe the first thing I want to do on frame 8 is like kind of turn this foot down. Come on. Disconnected. What? Oh, that was just another plugin. Do I G? Oh, there we go. Put this foot down like that. And, and then maybe I need to I need to actually G move this heel down like this. So that feels like a little bit more natural to kind of have the toe kind of hit the ground like that. And then maybe once again, I copy frame 0 and I paste flipped here again. Oops. Oh, so you see now I'm doing things on frame 0 and frame 1 that are troublesome. So as I said, this is where it can start to get a little bit funky. Copy and then paste flipped here like this. Oh yeah, and then here I need to copy. What is this keyboard shortcut? Control Shift V, Shift Control V, like that. And then here, copy, Control Shift V here, so that heel is down. Yeah, so it can, you just got to kind of keep track. And so, yeah, I think start with the big motions, the furthest motions, and then work in between to kind of adjust the animation, make it refine the animation. That's the word I was looking for. Okay, so let me save this. This is the walk cycle. I want to open my rigged one, and I want to just talk about shape keys very briefly because we're almost at an hour. So I'm gonna not instant replay. I want to save as, and this one is going to be a Chester rigged shape keys. Okay, saving multiple versions. Okay, let's talk about shape keys. Okay, actually, now that I think about it, and I was poking around, I don't want to talk about shape keys in this class. The shape keys will be something that we talk about in the 3D animation class for the fall, because I think the most useful time for it, at least with character animation, is with facial expressions, and it's just something that's more advanced and more than I want to cover in today's 1 hour. So I'll show you one other thing though, and it's about using the action editor. What you can do is, like, let's say you're creating different animations for a video game character. And so, like, what you can do here is, so I'm just gonna kind of hold on. Let me go to my front view, and then we just kind of reset this a little bit just to do like sort of a normal pose. Oh gosh, and maybe I should have done mirrored on the X like this, so that way I only have to do this once, even though now I'm doing it twice. I understand the irony of that. Excuse me, I had lunch. Okay. So I'm going to select all. I'm going to insert keyframe location rotation. Okay. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select the keyframe location. And then I'm going to select And then I'm gonna do like a karate punch or a karate chop because I guess I can't make a fist here. So he's going to. No, now I don't want to turn off X-ray. So right hand goes up. Let me do my top-down view like this because I want you to chop with that side of your hand. Okay, and then I'm gonna. Oh, and like maybe I should fix the arm or something. No, but just for quickness sake, I'm just gonna I insert keyframe location rotation like that, and then whew, he's gonna chop down like this. Yeah. And maybe I should do all like this. Location rotation. Location rotation. Okay. Maybe I'll turn on auto keying too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. there's one action. Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm really good at this. Okay. And then, so let's change our timeline to change the timeline to the dope sheet, and then change your dope sheet to the action editor like this. And so this animation is called, has a name, it's called rig action. So we could name this to like Chester Chop. Like this, Chester Chop. Cool. And then we can create a new animation. So we can say new action like this. And maybe we change this one to Chester Kick. So I'll delete these first two sets of keyframes here, so we're starting in the same spot. But then maybe it's going to be really good. I think auto keying is on. I believe auto keying is on. Bring this back. Yeah, okay, it is auto. And the knee. And then he's going to go, ooh. Okay, so here's Chester Kick. Hey, yeah. And of course, I wasn't in an orthographic view, so it's like totally sideways. Yeah, he kicks the ball. Okay, so that's Chester Kick. So I have two different actions on here. Chester Chop and Chester Kick. And so you can save these as different things that can be used for other animations. So, and the other cool thing is like because these keyframes are tied to the names of the parts of the rig. So like foot ik.r is ik remembers inverse kinematics, and it's the right one. You could copy these animations onto a different rig, onto a different character, as long as it had the same name. So that's the other advantage of kind of making sure that your naming convention. Sorry, I'm turning my volume off on this so I don't get notifications. That's the other advantage to using kind of these presets, because it can save you some animating time. The other thing I'll maybe show you if push down. So let's see, there is like a non-linear animator animation timeline too, that you can like if you want to fiddle with this, you can. So like this can combine actions. So like you can select, or sorry, so you have to go in the dope sheet action editor. This push down says push action down onto the NLA stack. NLA is non-linear animator. So then if you switch over to non-linear animator here and non-linear animation, you have these like two different things. So like, and then it's sort of, it works like a your Premiere timeline or whatever. So it's Chester Chop and Chester Kick. Oh, but why is it only doing one? Oh, we gotta enable both like this, right? Unlock. I don't have a ton of experience with this. Okay, yeah. So I guess maybe it has to be on the same line. Chester Chop and then Chester Kick. Yeah. And I think you can like blend between them too if you like blend. This blending in here. Auto blend, sure. Maybe if I separate these out. I don't know. You can play with it. Anyway, okay. Let's look at your assignment. Assignment 6. Here we go. Assignment 6, character animation. That's right. Create a 10-second character animation. Suggestions include maybe a dance routine, maybe a fight sequence, maybe a set of video game actions like Chester Chop and then a Chester Kick and a Chester Torpedo Twirl. You can use the provided character. By the time you are watching this, there will be links to download the Chester character. You can also find another free one or create your own. But, rig the character. If you're finding one, or sometimes you can find rig characters. I think if you're interested in being a character animator, it's a very good idea for you to practice doing the rigging process or the armature process. Okay, this is worth 18 points. 6 points for at least 10 seconds of animation. 4 points for having a rigged character in your Blender file. 3 points for submitting a rendered video, and then 5 points for the usual kind of sharing and being on time and whatever. Due April 20th. So again, this is 3 weeks. So you have an extra week to work on this because next week we have no class. What else can I say about this? If you're having doubts about animating or rendering an animation, look back at a couple of the previous lectures about rendering videos, including the assignment 4 section where you did the movie studio graphic. So my advice to you with this is to remember that this is part of your education and learning. This is practice. Your first character animation is very likely not going to be like super detailed and like absolutely perfect. Treat this as a learning opportunity. So just experiment, mess around, try to have fun with it. And keep in mind that this is not going to be the greatest piece of work you've ever created, because it can be tedious and hard. So if you get your 10 seconds and you're like, oh, like this is so hard to do this takes so much time, but you've kind of checked all the boxes and you're feeling like you've learned a few things in practice, then you have done what I am expecting of you in this assignment. So this is just kind of some exposure to character animation. Please email me if you have questions or concerns or doubts. Looking forward to seeing this. Final note, your final project, double final. Your final project is due at the end of the semester, and I just encourage you to start thinking about a project that you would want to do to kind of showcase everything you've learned. So this is, again, the final project is a choose your own adventure. There's very little parameters other than like make something special that you can be proud to put in your portfolio. Maybe it's an animation. Maybe you are really interested in character animation and you want to take this final one a little bit further. That's totally fine. If you want to continue assignment 6 through to your final project, I think that's a great idea if you're interested in character animation. If you're feeling like we didn't cover a whole lot of animation and character animation in this 3D Basics class, do not fear. There is a whole semester dedicated to 3D animation in the fall semester, and I encourage you to sign up if you'd like. Okay, that's all. Toodaloo. I'll see you in the next one.